Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the HollingsWorthless podcast. This will be for Wednesday, December 18th. As always, I'm your host, Big Irish J. Hollingsworth. No Phil Fox. I'll touch on that a little bit, but I think he'll be back soon. He got bronchitis right now. We were planning on having him back, but he's got bronchitis. And we'll talk about more of that in a little bit. But I have a very special guest with me today. He's a regular at Big Pine Comedy Festival. Fucking good, right? My buddy Gene Moore.
Thank you. And Fox, I know him. I've seen
Phil
him.
Fox.
Yeah.
Phil Fox like the animal.
Yeah, I think I was hitting on him and I made him nervous.
That's what he said. Yeah. Not that you made him nervous, that you were hitting on him.
Yeah.
He didn't say you were nervous.
Actually, all the gays were hitting on him. Yeah.
Is he?
It's the lips. He's got these lips. So do you know they call it soup coolers? Do you know what soup coolers? Yeah.
Dude.
He's got them soup cooling lips.
That's crazy you said that, because I said the other day, literally like in the last couple of days, I was telling somebody, they were touching or had their hand on and I go, get your dick beaters off my shit, right?
Okay.
And the dick beaters on my hands, and then my other buddy, he's like, I haven't heard dick beaters for a while. I was like, you ever heard of soup coolers? And he's like, no, what's that? I go, lips, when soup coolers.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He has soup coolers.
Yeah.
Really, and you know what? And his energy is good. He's nice and he's funny. You know what I mean?
He's a good
and
dude.
He doesn't bother anybody. And that's my favorite. And that's when you know someone is legit.
Go on the road with him.
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding. He knows I'm fucking with him.
I would just put chapstick on him all the time. He would never have dried lips.
I'll be sure to text and be like, you definitely got to watch this. If you're feeling down.
Well, he's handsome. He's a nice, good-looking guy.
I mean, you could say something about me.
You're very
No, it's cool.
handsome.
It's too late now. Right before we started this, you were saying you got in trouble recently.
Oh, that was like off the record.
Oh, do you know? Okay. Do you want to talk about it later?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was with me and another comic, but it was nonsense. So,
okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk about on this. Okay, so we were talking before. We did the Ty. How do you say his last name? Balmanis. Balmanis. Ty Balmanis has a show at House of Comedy. It's monthly, and it's called The Kinda Late Show. I love it.
I know.
It's great.
The energy is good.
Yeah.
He's always got good people, and that crowd is good. You know
yes,
what I mean?
It was a good turnout.
Yeah.
And so Ty's show is it's kind of like a late show format. He goes up, he does like current event jokes and stuff like that. And then he has a desk up there, and then he'll have comics on, and we'll go up and we'll do like 10, 15 minutes, and then he'll interview us for like 5 minutes. And
which is terrifying to me. That was terrifying to me because I only know how to do that stage Gene Moore, you know what I mean? And then when the interview, I'm like, who do they want? Who do they want me to be?
No, dude, you were great. Your interview, I mean, your whole thing, your set was awesome.
I was nervous. I'm like, what do
but
they
it's
want?
Still, it's great.
You know what? Thank you. In 2019, I'm taking compliments. Thank you.
Okay. Do you go out on the road for stand up? Okay. Do you ever do press?
You know what? No.
Radio and shit like that? Okay.
No.
That's like I remember I was in Canada. I was in Edmonton doing radio, and somehow we were talking about Boston, and I talked about they call like liquor stores packies.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, you just go to a packy, and both the DJs were like, yeah, no.
Oh, they're thinking like Pakistan.
Yes, like a racial slur.
Oh, yeah.
They looked at each other and they're like, what? I was like, like a liquor store, and they're like, oh, they're like different meaning here. I was like, oh, my bad, but. Yeah, radio is like in the morning and stuff. It's always interesting because you're like, you don't want to just be like, let me just answer your questions and be so stock. But it's also usually 6 or 7 a.m. and you're like, hey guys, let me put my tap dancing shoes on.
In my mind, I think it would be like when Martin Short goes in and does interviews. They're so good. I love to watch Martin Short be interviewed by anyone because he'll never let you down. He's always funny and he's always got a great story.
Have you seen Mark Normand?
The TV show on Netflix?
No. So a couple interviews you'll have to. I'll text it to you. Mark Normand doing morning radio because he's just winging it. He doesn't give a shit. Like the lady's like, how old are you now? And he's like, 38 or whatever. He's like, but hey, black don't crack. And he's a white dude. And she's like, oh, and you're from so-and-so. He goes, I saw my Grinder bio. And and she doesn't know what to do with him. It's the funniest shit. He talks about farting in the green room and stuff. And then Tom Segura, have you seen his morning?
No.
You know who Tom Segura is, right?
Yes.
So he...
Wouldn't it be funny if I didn't?
Yeah. You're like, who's Chappelle?
Who's Richard Pryor?
Yeah.
Why is everyone talking about him?
Segura does this character for he's touring the country doing stand up, but he goes on these radio or morning TV shows. He'll have a leather coat, a big old fat chain, shades, and like a do-rag on. And he has this rap character. And he's like, I'm just in town. I do a little comedy. I DJ on the side. And the lady's like, oh, you DJ? He's like, yeah, I got beef with some DJs, but it's cool. And it's I appreciate it because I'm sure it's their way of getting through it and not just being, but it's hilarious. But, yeah, so I was saying we just got done with Ty's show. Before Ty's show, we were talking. I was getting to know more about you. So which
is the best thing about working with people when you get to know and peel back the onions. Because I've seen you forever now. And let me just say before we say anything, how grateful I am to you when my friend Danielle had cancer and you did that show for her. You stepped in with not a lot of notice, and I think we raised like $4,000.
That was great. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Of course. I just saw her Sunday.
Oh, you did? Yeah, she's doing really well.
Yeah, I was like, it's so weird. So for those listening or watching, Danielle
Williams.
She has. No, I was gonna say what kind of cancer she has. Like
it's stage 4 lung cancer,
which is weird because she doesn't smoke. Yeah,
and she's super healthy.
Yeah, and she was always posting hiking pictures, and she looks great for her age. And she talks about her age, so it's not like I'm, And you when you find out her age, you're like, no fucking way. But what I was gonna say is a trip. I saw her Sunday. And like she got really, really skinny, but now she's gaining weight. But it's a weird thing that you're not used to saying to women like, "You look great, you're gaining weight."
I did a show, so we travel a lot together.
You and Danielle?
Yeah, we do. And so we did. We always go over time. You know what I mean? We're always, we're friends. We get it, right? So. We did this show, and I said, hey, because she was really weak and she was tired and she was barely walking, and I said, just so you know, I'll sit right up front, and if you can't, because it was 45-45, we split it. I said, if you can't do it, then I'm right there and I'll jump in, right? Because I was worried. She's like, fuck you, I'm gonna do my 45, right? You know what I mean? And then she went up there, and then at 25 she was tiring out, and then she sat down and she was done, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. It was bad. And that's when I knew. And then a week later we found out it was stage 4 cancer. And let me tell you how amazing she is. I started crying. I'm crying like, oh my God. And then she's like, it's gonna be okay, Gene. I'm like, don't you dare
consoling you.
Don't you dare console me.
Gene, you'll be all right. You'll get through this.
You'll get through this.
Yeah, she's such a strong person and like just amazing. Look her up, Danielle Williams.
She does a talk show here in Phoenix.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's it? Danielle Diva.
Yeah,
she goes
the Diva.
Yeah,
she's a diva.
But so when we were talking at the bar, when I ask people to do this podcast, sometimes they'll be like you were asking me, can we swear? I'm like, fuck yeah. But a lot of times people are like, oh, what's the podcast about? And I always tell people, when you're on it, the podcast is about you.
Oh, okay.
So it's like for people to get to know you and stuff.
Who would want to talk about me?
I do. And I have people on the podcast that I like, and I enjoy their as people and their comedy and this and that. But so you're ex-military.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You were in which armed forces?
I was in the Army. I was a 71 Lima. I was, you know what? I come from this really small town in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay, yeah.
And so my mom dies young. I'm lost. I don't know what to do.
How old were you when she
died? I was 16 when she died.
Oh, right, in high school.
Yeah, and so we were field workers. We were migrant workers. And so I was in transition where I was like, I don't want to be a migrant worker. I don't want this as my life. And so then, and then when I think I was 16 when we found out she had cancer. They're like, you can quit school and just work full time. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to keep going. But it was really difficult because they're like, no, this is our life. Why do you keep thinking you're white?
Interesting.
And I'm like, well, because
were your parents
white.
Immigrants?
No, no, they're just second. No, my grandfather and grandmother came here.
My grandfather came over from Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're third generation.
Yeah.
Third generation.
Thank you, because I'm not I'd be like, what does it mean? Where do we?
Yeah, pardon my math. Pardon my math.
I'm a child of immigrant. I don't know. But
I take great pride in saying I'm a child of immigrants.
Yeah,
I do. I take that very seriously. I love it. I love going into a room and there's like black people, white people, and brown people and old people. I love that.
I love it too, because I can be like, hey, I don't need that white guilt because my people came from Ireland. I had nothing to do with the slavery. No.
Mexican people and Irish people were very similar.
Oh, I know. Do you know about the St. Patrick's Brigade?
No, what is
that?
Oh,
let me teach you a little history.
Teach me a little bit that.
So when I'm trying to remember the war. There was a war. It might have been the Mexican-American War.
Okay.
And the Irish were on the side of the Mexicans.
Wait, I kind of think I hear about this. Yeah.
You're impressed that I know this.
Yes.
Because I mean, and it was called they were called the St. Patrick's Brigade, and I'm probably ruining this story, but there was something to the effect of like they were making a stand. They stood with the Mexican fighters against the Americans, and they were like, I don't know if they were on a cliff or something. I'm really probably remembering this wrong, but something to the effect of where they were like, they were in a dead-end situation. They knew they were going to die, but they were like, we're going to die fighting with our Mexican brothers. Wow. And like they fell off a cliff or something. But long story short, there's like a memorial in Mexico for the St. Patrick's Brigade, for the Irish that came over and
I mean, we're
fought.
very similar. We're Catholic. We drink a lot. We're emotional. The flags are very similar.
The what?
The flags.
Oh, I misheard you.
The flags. No, I mean, we're very similar.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
and I think
Absolutely.
Culturally, it's very similar. It's like Italian, Mexican, it's very.
My buddy Ray, he lives in Swords now, but he's from Ireland.
Wait a minute, where does he live?
Swords.
Okay.
Swords. Swords, Ireland. But he lived out here in the States for about 5 years, and we were roommates. But he used to. I mean, he's very smart and knows history and stuff. But he was telling me, and I haven't verified this, but he was telling me back in the days of like slavery and stuff, or no, not after slavery, but he was saying that they would try and keep the Irish and the blacks apart.
Oh, right.
And like what he said that like it was presented like, oh, we're keeping you guys apart because you guys are going to fight. But that wasn't it. The fear was that because the Irish were oppressed, that they would be like with the blacks, like, hey, we've been oppressed too. Let's team up and fuck these guys, But okay, so 16, your mother passes away.
I mean, so I go to the Army, and I'm poor.
Well, everybody's white. I want to get back because it's very interesting. I grew up. Okay, so the point you said about like where everybody's like, oh, why do you feel like you can do more?
Why do you want to leave? This is an amazing. And you know what? They would work like you'd be like the winters in Florida, then you go to Minnesota, then there's a circuit where you work.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? And they're like, come on, join us. It's fun. And I just knew that wasn't what I wanted.
What I was going to say that is so interesting to me. So I wasn't a migrant worker, but this is going to sound so like white privilege now that I think about it as I say it.
But I once picked strawberries.
No.
And they gave me organic lemonade.
This has nothing
sugar.
to do with a struggle that I had, but like growing up in Oregon, anything I've ever done, I've always wanted to be the best at it or the best I could be at it.
Sure.
Whether it's being in corporate America, I worked my ass off to get, work my way up. Whether it was martial arts, I wanted to, I became an instructor at a school. And not everybody, but growing up, I grew up in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and I don't know why, but I always got this feeling of like my peers that so many people had this very content mentality. That they were like, oh, this is fine. Like my life would be fine just doing this and not like. And I've always felt like I'm always striving to be better,
to want more.
And I had to get out of there. Yeah, and it's always been a thing. So that's what I was going to say. The similarities.
And it's weird because when you're alone, like there's no one to validate, like they're like co-signing that this is okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I had no idea. I was struggling with, am I gay or am I straight? Like I was struggling with all of that. Like I just knew. I didn't know, and I was lost, and then I didn't know really what to do, so I thought I could go to Europe. I could go to Europe, and I could go and be in the Army in Europe, but then, things don't work out. I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, in Tacoma. I was there for 3 years.
Oh,
That's where I was. Not Europe. Wow. Not at all Europe at all.
And which military did you say?
Army.
Okay.
I was a clerk. I was a clerk.
And you said, what was the thing you said? Or
71 Lima. It's
71 Lima.
It's a clerk. It's just,
okay.
All right. And when I went there, my mom got cancer, which was really weird. When she got cancer, she got stomach cancer, and it happened really fast.
Dude.
Like 2 weeks. Now, on this side of life, when I look back, I'm grateful that it happened so fast so she didn't have to suffer.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was tough. But I didn't know where to go, what to do, and so I thought, I'll go to the Army, and they'll grow. I knew I was immature. You know what I mean? And I thought, I'll go to the Army and I'll do that. And so, that's what I did.
And you were how old?
I think they had to sign a waiver. I think because they put me on the bus, and I think I just turned 18.
Okay.
Because I know when the recruiter, because, the recruiters, they'll look for anybody.
Yeah.
And they signed me up when I was really young. You know what I mean? And they're like, you'll go in on the delayed entry. And I thought, this is how I'm going to get to college. And I had a whole plan. I had it all planned out. I'm going to get out, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And then you know, when you get out of the Army, everything goes to shit.
And so you grew up in Michigan.
Grew up in Michigan.
And then had you ever been out of Michigan?
Never.
Okay, so you go to Washington.
Well, so I'm in at that time my mom died, so then I went to go live with my family in Elma, Michigan, which is like it's middle of nowhere. And so then they send me to Detroit on a bus. First time I get on a bus, and I'm crying, and you know, like my families are like, you know, make us proud, and I get on the bus, terrified, go to Detroit. Detroit's a big city, you know what I mean? And so then, and everything happens so fast, and everyone's yelling, and then they put you on a plane in the morning to New York. I flew into Newark, and I'm like, oh my God, I was terrified.
Yeah.
But you know what's so amazing about America is I was terrified. I was young, and especially every time I traveled home in my dress greens or whatever, people would always be so cool. They're like, I see you're nervous. Do you know where you need to go? And you know, like, do you have anything to eat? Like, people are amazing when you're in the Army. They're really
now. Yeah. I mean, I mean, I remember my grandmother telling me about like people coming back from Vietnam, and she was like, it was so wrong how people were treated in this.
My uncles went through that too.
Oh, dude,
horrible.
Okay, so you go to Fort Lewis in Washington.
Yeah.
And then how long are you there?
I was there for 3 years. The Army really...
In Fort Lewis?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was there the whole time.
Wow.
So it was hard for me in being in the Army because I like to ask questions. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And they're like, you don't really ask. You know what I mean?
You'd be like, you know what you signed up for?
And I didn't know left from right. I didn't know, and you learn real quick, left from right, you know. And then I didn't know how. I know this is gonna make me sound stupid, but here's the truth. I struggled when my mom got cancer. You know what I mean? It was really hard, and so the alphabet was a challenge for me. Like A to Q, I got
right.
Q to Z was a blur. You know what I mean? So
now,
my job was to file things.
Oh my
God!
So
if your last name was Q, it was a mess.
Yeah, you're like, you just have a section.
Yeah, but they taught me how to do it. But you know what the amazing thing was when my mom had cancer and she was in so much pain, we didn't know what to do. And so what we would do, she loved Joan Rivers. She loves Joan Rivers, right? So we would put in like tapes, DVDs, whatever. I know Joan Rivers materials, that CD my mother loved called What Makes a Semi-Legend the Most, because we would hear it over and over. Because it was the only time where she could laugh, and it bought us time to go like take a shower or like just be kids. Yeah. And so I was really grateful that I could hear my mom laughing and I could just be relaxed. So fast forward, I'm moving from the Army, but I go to a show in Chandler, and Joan Rivers is performing.
How old are you about?
Oh, this was like maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it was recent. Right. Yeah. So I go and when did she die? She's been gone for 4, I think. So maybe it's like 6 years.
Okay, yeah.
So anyways, we go there, and my friend Renee, she's very aggressive. She's from New York. She's like, we're going to meet Joan Rivers. I'm like, no, we can't, you know. So we go into the front of the line, and they say, if you have season ticket holders, you can go meet Joan Rivers, but no pictures. They got cameras back there, no touching, no autographs. Like, it's just go through, right? Meet and greet. So we're going up there, and then they're like, where are your tickets? And we're like, we don't have any, you know what I mean? And she's like, you got to go outside. So we were really bummed, so sad. And then she's like, if you want to see Joan Rivers, she came and got us. Because my friend Renee said we're comics. You know, I never would say that. Right. You know what I mean? I'm too embarrassed. But and at that time, I'd only been doing comedy 3 years. I'm not a comic at 3 years. You know what I mean? I would never even say that, but she did, and I'm like, thank God. But anyway, so she's like, if you want to see Joan Rivers, go to the back of the building, and her limousine will come up, and she'll wave. And we're like, okay, that's cool. So we go back there, and there's like 4 or 5 people. All of a sudden, the doors open up, and then there's like this hill, and this huge limousine comes out, right? And then the window rolls down. She's like, oh, I see you. I'll be right out there. I'll be right out. So she to all of us.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So she comes out, and then my friend Renee's like, we're comics and like all that, and she's like talking to us, and then she's telling us, you know, like never, because Renee's like, you got any advice? I'm like, where are you getting these questions? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then you know, all the bad comics always ask those weird questions. You know what I mean? So, but I'm listening to it. You know what I mean? So then I'm listening, and then she's like, you know, never turn down work, make your own projects, never say no to anything. And then she's like, all roads are in LA. You got to get to LA. That's what she says. But anyways, the whole time she's talking to me, I'm not like there, because I see Joan Rivers. Yeah, because I go back to what she did for my mother, and I was so grateful. I didn't see her as a comic. I saw her as a beautiful person that gave my mother peace. It's
like, almost like hospice nurse,
and I wanted
or something.
And I'm like, hi, and like I wanted to talk, and she's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't talk because it wouldn't come out. And then she's like, come take a picture with me. And then I did. And then my boyfriend, she's like, come over here and get a picture. And he's like, no, Miss Rivers, we don't want to bother you because we're Midwest people. Yeah. And she's like, I'm gonna be dead. You never know. And she ended up being.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I learned to love that that pain can go away through humor.
Oh,
you
dude.
know what I mean? And I knew that going in the Army. That
story is dope. Joan Rivers, I ask comics, and we'll get to it with you, but I always ask, like, who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of comedy?
For her,
and she's on my Mount Rushmore. Yeah. I put her and Johnny Carson, but
for sure. And some more. Do you know who some more?
Oh, is? I know some more. I've worked with some more.
Oh my God, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
in Washington.
Sweet. Touch me! I can't believe it. I love her. I love some more. I just saw her. She was here in town. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I went, and we were there as customers, right? So I go in there and like, it's funny because the only time I pay to see comedy are females. I never pay to see a man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because we get in for free, but when it's a female, I'm like, I want to pay. So we see her, and then she's like waving and saying, like, "Oh my God, S'more sees us!" It's so cool. I love her.
So one of my other like all-time great favorites is Don Rickles.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't have this story, but this happened to my buddy Mike Cummings, which is dude. He goes to see Don Rickles, like he's like, I'll pay for a ticket and this is probably 9-ish years ago.
Some people you want to pay.
Oh, dude. So
they get the money, and they don't even. But it's important. It's a principle.
Yeah. So he's in the audience, and Don Rickles is like at different times calling people onto the stage. Oh, wow. Randomly, Mike gets picked.
Oh my God.
So he brings Mike up onto the stage, and he's like, what's your name, Mike? And then what do you do? And Mike's like, I'm a comic. And then but this is the dopest thing. He said Don Rickles in the microphone, he's just shitting on Mike, like you're never going to make it, blah blah blah. He would drop the mic, and he would grab him and whisper in his ear. He's like, keep going, don't give up, keep going. And then he'd shit on him in the mic, get off the mic, and he's like, these are all jokes, man. You're going to be a great dude.
That's amazing.
I know. I was like so envious of him for that, because I like growing up, my dad, he listened to Richard Pryor, Cheech and Chong, and he would always watch the roasts. And Don Rickles, he loved Don Rickles, Rodney Dangerfield. But okay, so I want to go back. So you were at Fort Lewis 3 years.
3 years.
And then do you get out of the Army at that point? Or?
So I get out. So I go in there, and when I go in there, I meet this guy, this most amazing.
Oh wait, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before we get to that,
yeah.
When did you? I mean, I know you're born gay, but like, when did you? Really, like, because you said you were conflicted for a while. Conflicted. When were you like, okay, I know what I am?
I knew at 5 I was gay. My
really?
First boyfriend, Billy Brooks, we were going together. He thought we were friends, but we was dating. But who's doing bits now?
No.
So no, but we really were close, and I knew I was gay, but I knew to put it away. I came from a really. I didn't realize it. I'll get to that point, but it was very homophobic in my family, and there was an energy not to do that. I just didn't. No one vocalized it, but I knew to keep my mouth shut.
That's interesting. So you're in a space where you're figuring out who you are, and you don't really necessarily know. You have an idea.
I didn't even think it could be. I didn't even think this was a thing. That's how afraid I was.
But what's crazy is you weren't sure. You didn't know if this is a thing. But one thing you did know is that if you are this, that your family is not cool with it.
I knew that. I knew.
Interesting. That's a weird.
It was in the back of my head. So then I go to the Army, and then I met this guy. His name was Bruce Downs. He ends up dying of AIDS. But he was so amazing, and he was like everything I'm not. He was loud, and he was black, and he was just. He just entered a room, and he just had that energy. You know what I mean? He was so beautiful, and everyone wanted to be his friend, And he said, "I'll be your friend." And I'm like, "Yes." And then he's like, "You're gay, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. You're not gay." I'm not gay. And he's like, "You're gay." And I'm like, "No." So then he helped me get a fake ID, and I go to a gay bar. And
this is while you're in the Army.
This was when I was in the Army,
and you're under 21.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
gotcha. That's why you needed the ID.
Yeah. But when I was in the Army, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I didn't even know that was an option. So I kind of had a girlfriend back home, but not really. But I don't know.
For appearance?
Well, she got pregnant.
Oh.
So we were, you know what I mean? But it was
pregnant by you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're at least saying, oh, yeah.
A clock hits twice. So
what's funny is like that not that you're ashamed of having a child, but like you're kind of like, yeah, you know.
Well,
I was straight.
You know, here's the horrific part. My sister at the time told her, "You're gonna ruin your life. You have to have an abortion." And we're very Catholic.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no. And then I send home money, and then they get an abortion. Right? It was horrible. My sister regretted it. Her first child she had when she got married, she lost, and she thought it was because of that. You know how Catholics are.
Gosh.
Yeah. But so I'm in the Army, and then I meet Bruce Downs. He tells me to be gay, and then I'm like really gay. And then I meet this most amazing guy that was in the Army. He's older than me. He was Italian, black, and German.
Damn.
And that's a very European, and he was electric, and he was older than me, and we had gotten to he had a girlfriend, but he started cheating with me, and then it turned into where he would always call me an experiment. You know what I mean? And he was like, I don't really want this. So then he goes back home, and then he leaves me. And I'm like heartbroken, and I'm like, I don't want to be gay anymore. If this hurts too much.
Was that your first like gay relationship? Okay.
Yeah, it was really the first time I really was in love.
Okay.
Like really, like every time he came in the room, I couldn't breathe. You know that kind of love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I wasn't cool because like whatever he wanted to do, I wanted to do. Like I just wanted to be with him all the time.
Like a puppy, like
And it was annoying to him. You know what I mean? Like it was annoying. Like our sex was good, but that was it. Like he couldn't take me because you know, like I'm really young and he's like 28. You know, and so he goes back home devastated. So then I go and I meet the Fort Lewis Post wrestling champ.
Wow.
Okay, and that turns into a whole thing, and then that's really where my story breaks apart. You know what I mean? It's so funny.
Let's go.
So I get out of the Army and I go home. He goes to Korea.
The wrestling champ. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so he goes to Korea. He calls me all the time. And so then I'm like, whatever. You know, I get on.
You're how old at this time?
This was like maybe
23?
22.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I flew to Korea before I got out of the Army because you could fly in the military to visit him, you know, and everything. And so we're kind of like, I didn't know that you could be gay and be in a relationship. I thought it was just sex. You know what I mean? Okay. So then he's calling all the time, and he calls at 3:00 in the morning, and my grandmother answers the phone, and she's like, why is this guy calling so late at night, and why is he writing letters? And so they open a letter, and it's him with this huge boner, and it's a beautiful boner, by the way, too. And Midwest boner, you know what I mean?
A male dick pic.
Oh, my God. And so he sends me that, and so they take that, and then they decide to have a family meeting because this is not cool.
They're going to do a gay intervention.
So this is what they do. So what you should know is, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to my grandmother, but this is the story that I'm dealing with, is that like my grandmother had a lot of affairs, and so my grandfather had a divorce, and it was tough. And they never talked for 20 years. They never talked. But when that letter came out, she called them and said, come to my house. They never moved. I've been to my grandmother's house. She never redecorated. What chair was there, it was always there. You know what I mean? She moves all the furniture into a family circle. The whole family's there. And I'm standing outside, and I can hear them, and they're voting on whether they're passing that letter around, and they're voting on whether I can stay or go. And they're like, and what's amazing is...
hold on. Okay. Yeah. Couple things. First of all, in a sense, your gayness brought your family together.
Thank you for the holidays. Thank you. That's a good show. Good night, everybody.
That's a way to put it. Okay, so...
I never thought of that.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, so... I want to set this. Okay, they're in a room, like in a circle, handing around this picture,
and it's people that don't like each other. Because when my grandmother and grandfather got divorced, they went either Team Sarah or Team Joe. I was on my grandmother's. I was always her favorite. I always stuck up for her when they called her whore or whatever. I always stuck up for her.
Now, as they're doing that, you're in the other room.
No. So I am at my other uncle's house, and then there's a phone call, and it's everyone is assembling, and they're like, "What are we doing?" And then I'm like, "What's going on?" Because I'm nosy as shit.
Who called you?
I think my aunt called from my grandmother's house and said, "You guys need to get over here. We're having a meeting." And so I knew there was a meeting. I'm like, "I'm going too," and they're like, "No, it's about you." And I'm like, "What? What? And they're like, "We don't know. We're gonna go find out." Well, I'm like, "Bullshit." So I go outside.
No, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you because I'm
No.
like with stories like this, I always put myself in the position, or like try and see like how would I react if I'm in this. Now this meeting, and they're saying it's about you. Has the family ever had a meeting about anybody?
Never.
So this is something that's never happened before for anybody in the family.
Never. The two sides never met. It's like Israel and the Palestinians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a big deal.
That's okay. I'm with you. Sorry.
It's a summer. It's summer. It's like spring, and so it's so I'm outside. It's like 8 o'clock at night. And in Michigan the mosquitoes are bad. It's just terrible that I'm being tormented, but mosquitoes are biting me. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So I'm outside, and I'm standing on a box, and I can see into the living room. They can't see me, but I'm staring.
And they don't know you're out there.
They don't know I'm out there.
Wow.
And they're talking freely.
Yeah.
And never in my life have I ever, because we're very close to my family, never in my life did I even phantom or think that these people would talk shit about me. Like, never.
It's your family.
And I don't live a life where I'm mean or being curt to people. I just don't live in that energy.
Yeah.
So it was all like, what? And in my family, and then they're talking about it, and then they're passing it around. It was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. And then I'm humiliated.
Devastating.
And then they're all deciding, and then they take a pot, they pass around a bowl, and they put money in there.
Fucking crazy.
They
dude.
give me money, and then my grandfather comes out, because in Mexican family, my uncle, my oldest uncle and my grandfather came forward, and they're like, "This is," because in the Mexican culture they run the family,
right?
And they're like, "This is the deal. You're gonna have to go," and I'm like, "What?" And they're like,
"Wait." And you said that they have a pot like where they're doing like a blind ballot, blind voting.
No, where they're putting money in there for me to go away.
They've already like said he's out, and so
out.
they're like, okay, and the next step is now we're gonna give him going away money to go away.
Yeah, to go away.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't sass or talk back. I'm like very respectful. You know what I mean? And I'm embarrassed. And then they're like, "Hey," my uncle says, he pulls me aside and he says, "If you can commit that you won't be gay, and you can still stay in the family, but you can never be gay. We don't want to see that. We don't want anything around there.
Man.
No communication with this guy. Like, you are going to have to get back in the church or whatever, but you're not going to be gay." And at that time, something inside of me said, "Don't agree to that." Right? And so then
now I know I keep interrupting you, but
ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
You say at that time something inside of you said, "Don't agree to that."
I don't know where that came from.
Well, I was going to say, like, growing up, these very machismo. Yeah. I'm assuming your uncle and your dad, and had, like, prior to this, would that have ever been a thing, like, whatever the topic was, not necessarily about being gay, would that ever be a thing where you would stand up and be like, I'm not going to do what you want?
No, because we were raised to be respectful.
Yeah. Which means doing whatever you... Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, so sorry. So he's like...
So they kick me out, and it's really bad. It's really bad.
And they tell you that you said you had the voice in your head that's basically...
It was really, I'm in that moment now, and I haven't thought about this for years, but I just remember thinking like I just was like, just hold on, because I didn't want my sister to find me dead like this. Like, I don't want them to find me.
You know, can I tell you something?
Ahead.
That says something about you.
Oh, really?
No, because you're in that moment, you're thinking of others.
Yeah, I was like,
you realize that you're You're not like you're not thinking, oh, just hold on so I can get out of this. Hold on, get through this. Your whole thing is hold on because you don't want your sister to find you like that.
This. I don't want them.
That's
because I'm like, I don't want. This is not how. So
wow.
God is so good, and so for some reason, the feet weren't tied right, so I was able to jiggle it free, and then I get free, and I run, and then it was a whole thing, and it was just really bad. So
can anyways, you and if any of this stuff,
no,
I totally get. Can you talk about how does that happen? Like, how did you get into this situation?
I was incredibly naive. And I remember talking to somebody, and I had the feeling inside of me to run or to get away. Like, I felt like it was not good, and I didn't know what was happening, and it all escalated incredibly fast.
But I mean, like, were you at a bar and met somebody?
No,
and
I was in a park. I was in a park.
Oh yeah, you're homeless.
Yeah, I was homeless.
So
I was living in the park. I was just
Gotcha.
hanging out. It was like maybe 6 o'clock when it started.
At night?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm there, and then when I got free, I was like so numb, and I was like so like I don't know how to describe it. Like, I don't know how I got out of that situation. I just know that I knew that I was like, put one foot in front of the other and just move. Put one foot in the other and just move. And the thing that really strikes me when I think back is I just needed to get to a bathroom to wash my face. I didn't want to be dirty. Like, you know what I mean? But I couldn't stop cleaning it.
Also, I mean, maybe metaphorically cleaning yourself.
Maybe.
Too. That's...
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, go on.
So I get through that, right?
Yeah.
So I get through that. I get through being homeless. I get through, and I knew immediately, gotta get a job, gotta get a job, gotta get a job, gotta get out of this, right?
How long did it? And are you out of money at this point now?
How
long did the money last you?
I had money because I put it away. I hid it, and I knew not to spend it, and I was like spending pennies. You know what I mean? I was spending pennies.
How much was it?
It was $1,000. It was.
Good luck on your life.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I get out of that situation, and then so let me just pause that. And
Sure.
I'm not going just because I'm just nervous, so I don't.
No,
move
dude.
out.
Hey, I appreciate you. And again, any of the stuff that you don't want to talk about.
No, I talk
totally
about.
fine.
I
had a guy on my podcast that's in the witness protection.
Oh my God, I want
And
to
like,
talk about that.
yeah, I mean, and disguised his voice and everything, and he's had a crazy life, But like again, anything you don't.
No,
want
I'm good. I'm good. I think it's important for me to talk about this because I deny it. I don't really talk about it. I told it to Tony Tripoli one time, but I was crying, and you know what I mean. Like, I'm just tired of being embarrassed. You know what I mean? So,
you shouldn't be. I mean, I get.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to be like, oh, just get over it. And I don't mean it like get over it, but you did nothing wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Go ahead. So it's you have 1,000.
Oh, you just made me cry. So I'm like,
I love you, brother. You know that. All right.
So I get up. I get a job. What's funny though is I get a job delivering donuts.
Okay.
And I go in there and I stink. I'm washing myself and I'm but the girls and girls are mean because they're like, why does he stink so bad? And I was really trying to keep myself clean, but I was really working my ass off because I'm like, they're like, we need a dishwasher, we need a dryer. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, I'll do it.
Like Joan Rivers said.
Do yeah. Oh yeah. Like yeah. Just do it. So I did it.
Full circle.
So I get out and I get a job and I get a house and then I start moving on. Right. So now the holidays come. So I get a call from my wet aunt and she's like,
from your what?
From my aunt.
Did you say wet aunt?
From my aunt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my aunt calls and she's the one who did not believe in me being kicked out. And she's like, you need to come back home. So I come back home, but that's even a worse mess. Like, it was like pandemonium, and it was like, they physically threw me out. When they threw me out, I remember just looking, my hands were bleeding, and I was like, they're like, go, you little faggot. You're never going to, like, they were just saying faggot a lot. I just kept hearing faggot. You know what I mean? And so it's funny because in my sets, I always talk about faggot. And I do a lot of liberal LA comics don't like that word. And I'm like, well, fuck you, because it's an empowering word.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
Because I one day want to go back home and say, look at the faggot now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get out of it.
You know what? That should be your
special
album. No, your album title.
Look at the faggot now.
Yeah.
yeah. I know that would kill him. But I just decide, and it starts. my boyfriend gets out of Korea. He gets out of the army.
Right. I interrupted you, and I'm interrupting you again.
Yeah.
I interrupted you, so I think I got you off where you were, because you were saying they physically threw you out.
Yeah.
And you said your hands were bleeding?
Because I got thrown on the ground.
And
I was like, Christ. And in my mind, I know why I was going down this road. In my mind, because they're like, they just kept saying, you know, like, you could stay if you're not gay. You could stay if you're not gay. And in my mind, I'm like, no. Like, the same thing that said you don't have to be in the fields. I just knew. I'm like, just pick yourself up and go, and just don't look back. Just don't look back, and just keep working. Like, you're working, you're getting yourself out of it. Trust yourself. And so, no self-confidence, no self-esteem. I feel like I'm a monster. I feel like anything bad happens, I felt like I deserved it.
Right. So
I struggle. I get myself back in school, which is really hard when you don't have an address. It's homeless is really hard. I get it all together. My boyfriend gets out of the army. We decide to live together, and he turns into this controlling, abusive that took me like another 3 years to get out of.
Fuck.
And I get out of that, and it was really bad, and I get out of it. And then when I get out of it, I just remember being like, it's not like you get out of it and you're like, oh my God, I did that. It's like you're so embarrassed that I was homeless. I'm so embarrassed that I got myself into that situation. And I just really just like went within, and I got really fat, because when I get it now, but when you're raped, you want to make yourself not attractive. And
interesting.
So I gave myself a home perm. Like, I look like little orphan Annie, but a Mexican one. It was just horrible. And it was just
little orphan Annabella.
Yeah. But I get through that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I kept saying to myself was, this will not define me. I knew that. And I didn't know the verbiage or anything. I just knew, like, I didn't want to be known as the guy that has no family. I didn't want to be known as the guy with the I just wanted to be the guy, a guy. So, you know, I get out of that, and then, you know, here
now you're
now.
in. Well, okay, so that's a.
It's so funny because I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, you know, it's humiliating for me to talk.
Dude,
about
you know
this.
what I hear when you're telling me all this?
Yeah.
What I hear, I'm like, you're a fucking fighter.
Oh, thank you.
Take that in.
I will.
Dude, you're a fucking fighter. You're a bad motherfucker. All the shit you went through and overcome, and you keep fucking overcoming it. That's like, I was in Seattle, and I was talking to Bobby Kelly. You know Robert Kelly?
No.
I get teary-eyed. I was talking to Bobby, and I was talking to him about, I'm trying to decide if I should go to New York or LA. I told him about how I was brought up and everything. He's like, and typical comic response, he's like, dude, he's like, you're fat. He's like, he's just shitting on me, right? He's like, but you know what? He goes, you're a fighter. You're gonna end up on your feet wherever you're at. You're gonna you fight. You get shit done. So you're gonna be fine wherever you go. And hearing your story, I hear you're a fighter, bro.
Thank you.
You get me fucking
Thank you.
teary-eyed, you see?
Thank you.
It's fucking dope. So
you know, and we got into this conversation was because I was telling you, and this to me, Jay, is like something that I'm kind of embarrassed about, is that every year I work my ass off, like, and I don't ask anybody for anything. I just work,
right.
Try to, and it takes so long to be fucking funny, and I'm not. God bless you. And so I work from January to like October. I just. Just keep jamming them in, right? And then like from like the beginning of the holidays, I don't book any shows, or I just do local, because my hope is this is the year they call me home. This is the year that I get to go home, and even after all that, I just want to go back, and I just want to go back. And I don't even know. I don't want to go back because I'm angry. I don't want to go back because I have anything to prove. I desperately want to see like people with my skin color in my eyes. I just want to see my people. I just want to feel that energy. And the only thing they took from me, because I've restored myself and I got myself back together, is whenever I go anywhere and then I come back to where I live, I don't feel like home. That's the only thing they took from me, was I don't have that piece of home. You know what I mean? When you're home.
Dude, so the little backstory on me. I bounced around a lot growing up. I born in Portland, Oregon. My mom and dad, I mentioned a little bit on stage tonight, but mom and dad got divorced when I was really young. My mom remarried. I think I went to like 13 or 14 schools growing up.
Oh, wow.
But I would bounce from parts of Oregon to parts of Washington when my mom moved up there. Like my junior year, I lived with my dad during the week, and I would live with like my buddies Mark and Matt on the weekends. I lived with my grandparents at different times, but I say that to say, like home for me was always my grandparents' house because that was the only constant.
Yeah,
that was the only place that this is always here. They're always there. It's a home. It's a house. It's not an apartment. It's not, and it's not changing to a new address or everything. So that was always what I considered home. So I totally get that not having that. Yeah. Like, and now my grandparents have passed away. The house was sold and stuff. And so it's like, I definitely can relate to like, I talked about, I haven't had a residence officially since April 1st, but I mean, like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's, but I was thinking about, and I was thinking about like this year, I'm like, as like goals, I want to get that, get a place, make it a home, make it comfy, and so next Christmas, I'm like, I'm going to do it up for Christmas next year.
Yes, I love that.
Actually,
will you please send me a picture of that?
Well, I'll send you an invite. I was going to say, why don't we'll spend Christmas together?
That's very nice. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry.
So, all right, that's the deal.
That's a good deal.
Put it on our calendar.
Okay.
We'll spend Christmas together, whether your place, my place, wherever we.
That.
But
I
we'll do
love
that.
Yeah. Can I also ask for a TV credit?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
as long as
we'll film it. We'll film it.
You know what? We should do a special.
Yeah.
So
dude, I'll tell you an idea I have on project after this. Okay, so. We've gotten through all this. And you broke up the guy that got out that you were in with 3 years with him.
And you know how bad it was? Let me tell you how bad it was. He would not leave me alone. He would not let me break up. I would break up, and then he would like bust into the house I would be at. Like, it just made my life hell. And I moved to another state. I moved from Michigan to Louisville.
Jesus.
And he found me. So then I'm like, fuck. So I went to my boss because I work for this lady.
It's quite good that you went to Louisville. I mean, it's known for its very positive gay population.
Yeah,
and,
I just want to hide.
Yeah, I get it.
So then she's like, no, I'll move you to San Antonio. So she's like, just go ahead and go, and I'll get the movers. They'll move your stuff. You won't just go to San Antonio, stay at a hotel. We'll get you set up.
This was your boss?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is why. This is why I never get sad, or I never like get angry or get resentful, because at every point I needed help, there's always been someone there out of the blue that wants nothing from me. That's always like, you know what, here, just do this. And it's procedural. It's not like they're being put out. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's always a blessing. You know what I mean? So she did that. So I thought, okay, good. I'm going to San Antonio. I go to San Antonio. And the movers are there, and I go home. I go home at lunch because I'm working in an office, and I go home to my new apartment, and he's there. He came with the movers, and he's like,
what the fuck?
He talks me into giving him another year, and we're going to and it was the most violent year in my life. I fought every day for my life, every day. At the end, I was like, fucking kill me. Just kill me. Get it over with. Just get it over with. And then we were upstairs and we were fighting, and I was gonna leave, and he's like, you're not gonna leave. And I'm like, I'm leaving. And so he was trying to choke me with a belt, and I like squirmed my way down the stairs, and I pushed him away. And then when he came at me, I'm like, just kill me. Just fucking kill me then, because I'm done. And then I lunged towards him, and I'm like, just kill me. Just kill me. Then he's like, was like stunned. And then I turned around, and I just never saw him again. I left.
Wow.
I left. I keep bringing up these sad stories. I'm sorry. It sounds horrific. I don't have a great life. I don't.
Dude, no. You say that again. I mean, no, it's not. Don't say that. Don't say that. I'm telling you, I keep hearing that you're a fighter. And I don't think you recognize that in yourself.
Well, I just try to, Jay, I want to, like, this is therapy now. My goal is, and this is what has carried me through all of that bad stuff, or even when I get nervous, I just want one day to be able to look my mother in the eye and say that I was an honorable man. That even all this bad stuff happened to me, that I didn't hate my family. I don't talk to them in a negative way. I just tell the facts. Yeah. But I just want desperately to say, you know, you didn't waste. I wasn't wasted. You know what I mean? But it kills me to be thrown away like I was nothing. That just kills me.
Do you this is how I have this in my personality where it could be a family member, it could be somebody I dated, but I get to a point where if I feel like somebody has done me wrong or fucked me over or however you want to word it, or a scenario like this, I like you know, I'll fight to try and keep the relationship to a point, but I get to a certain point where I just shut down to them emotionally. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I guess it's my coping mechanism or whatever. Yeah. And I don't wish them ill will or anything, but I literally, emotionally, they're a non-factor to me. Like if I would see them, hello, cool, they don't affect me one way or another. Do you ever think you will get to that point, or do you fear getting to that point?
No, I still have hope that it'll happen.
Okay.
I will tell you this is a blessing, is that when Facebook started happening and becoming a thing, my cousins reached out to me because they found me and they're like, what is the story here? And I never talk shit about my uncles or aunts. Right. Never.
And this is at the point that they haven't seen or talked to you in
years.
Like 10?
Just been
15?
Well, yeah, that was like, at that time it was like 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so then they reached out and they're like, oh, I would love to have a relationship with you and you're in our family. And I'm like, okay. Thank you. And I like that. I like that. And it may be a waiting game where maybe, you know, they die and then I can go home. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I just know that just to be hopeful.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
You know, that it can happen. And, you know, the thing about my family is, and this is so amazing about these people, even though they did this to me, they are really good people. They are really good people. And like if you go to a wedding or a funeral, they're fun, they're loud. Like family get-togethers, everybody's laughing and like you make each other laugh till you poop or you pee or you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and part of me is always like, if I'm funny, I can go home. If I'm funny, I can go home. And so it's a sickness. You know what I mean? Like you do these shows, you drive 4 hours for $20. And you're like, why are you, people are like, why are you doing
you're
that?
getting $20?
Yeah. And I'm like, it's my way home.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And it's I don't know if that's pathetic or what. No. It's just, you know.
I mean, I think, so like I said, I went to 13 different schools growing up. So you're always the new guy.
Yeah. Which is a blessing.
Well, yeah, so I remember, I think I was maybe a freshman or 8th grade, and I remember my grandmother saying to me, she's like, oh, honey, I wish you had like the traditional mom and dad at home and this and that. And I told her, I was like, Grandma, I would never change the way I was raised. Even in 8th grade, I recognized this because I was like, I love that I get these old school values from you and Grandpa, and you know, and I wouldn't change it any other. I love that I was raised by my grandparents, you know, and I think with moving around so much, humor is a good way to make friends, and so. You know, at a young age, you're reading a room.
You're reading a room.
You're doing crowd work and all that shit.
It's all it is.
So
you're
it's
connecting.
Like, you know, it's like the comedy is that coping. You know, how you cope, however you do that. Now, when did you get into stand up and how?
9 years ago.
Okay.
And get this. So I really wanted to do it. I had no confidence at all. And I was like, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what book to buy. I just knew I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, but there's no way I'm going to do it in Phoenix. So I drive down to Tucson and I sign up for an open mic.
Okay.
And I think I have a 5-minute act. I think I do. You know what I mean? It was horrible. And so just as I'm getting ready to go on, Joey Medina.
Oh, Joey
bumps me. Because he's
that motherfucker.
It was a blessing.
Joey.
It's a blessing.
No, fuck Joey.
No.
Joey's one of my best buddies.
Is he?
Yeah. And
so
Joey's been great to me and given me a lot of opportunities. I love him.
It's these comics have been on the road like Dennis Reagan and the Greg Wilson. Well, he doesn't go by that. I love those
Greg
guys.
Romero Wilson.
Yes. Yeah. I love those guys. I love those guys because anyways, let me go back.
So let's talk about this asshole Joey Medina bumping you.
So I'm on the open mic and he bumps me and then he goes up and he kills and I'm like, oh, now I'm really focused. Because I'm getting ready to go on next, right? So you're really hyper there. And then I'm like, there is a design to comedy. I can see it. I don't know what it is. I can see what they're doing, but I don't know how they're doing it. And they're like, do you want to go up now? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, not after this fucking monster just destroyed. Yeah.
It took me another 4 months to get the courage to
see,
go.
Joey, look what you did, you fuck.
So then I go to the comedy spot.
Yeah.
It's a local club here. Yeah. And so then I go there and I do some classes. I do every showcase.
I took classes too.
You did? I loved the classes. I loved it because it wasn't that you learned to be funny, but I learned the discipline of every Sunday we had to come in with material. And you know what? For 4 years I did and then when I worked at that club, they moved me up and they're like, you're going to be an opener. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? Open the doors? This is exciting. So they're like, no, you're going to do the opening. And I did that. And so then I worked my way up. And this is something I'm really proud of myself, is I worked my way up to be the permanent host. From Wednesday to Sunday, I hosted every single show for 4 years. He never took a week off. It was like, I don't even know, what is that, like 300 shows? It's a shitload.
That's crazy. I was the house MC for 3 years in Bellevue, Washington at Parlor Live.
Isn't that a blessing?
Dude, you're getting 5 shows packed. Yep. And then you have, and that's Thursday, Friday,
and
Saturday.
And you have to do new material because people come back.
I was just telling, who was I talking? Last night after the open mic, I was talking to some of the comics, and I was talking about, I had a spreadsheet. I had an Excel spreadsheet that would have the headliner that was that weekend, the dates of that, and the jokes I did for that weekend. Oh, wow. Because I don't know if your club was the same. The club I worked at, they papered the room a lot. So every weekend we'd have repeat customers. Yeah. So I never wanted to do the same material I did the weekend before. And I never wanted to do the same material with a headliner that was coming back because their fans are probably coming back again.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way.
Oh.
A guy that kept coming to the show, he's like, hey, could you do something new? He's like, I can't.
Jesus.
Anymore. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I should. And then he wrote me a joke, and I'm like, thank you so much. That's so nice of you to write me a joke.
Oh, God. I wish you would have just went, oh, thanks, and then you crinkle it up and throw it on the ground in his face.
But I got the message. And then I knew always do new material, and it was and then I had guys like the Greg Wilson pull me I learned how to host, because I remember one time I said, I used to ask open-ended questions like, are you ready for your headliner? Which just shows you're an amateur.
Yeah.
I said, are you ready? And somebody said no. And then Greg Wilson was like standing right there, and he's like, you better fix this. You know that laugh he does. You better fix this. What do you got? What do you got? Because I'm not going up there till you fix this. And the pressure, and all my jokes were done. So I'm like, and I had to be funny on the spot. And then I'm like, okay, yes, I could survive that. But I learned from who else was that? All these people that would come in, and they would it was amazing to work with these people. We would always beg for certain comics to come. Like Kristen Key, do you know her?
Oh, yeah.
Kristen Key, we would love. That's the first person I ever opened for. Amazing. The second person I ever opened for was Rain Pryor.
Oh, yeah.
And we were told, don't bother her. She's comedy royalty. Don't talk to her. And we're in the back, and then she's like, hey, come here. And I'm like, no, we're not supposed to talk to you. And she said, I was wondering why nobody's looking.
That's hilarious.
She's like, you get over here right now, boy, and sit and you talk to me. And we talked, and she's so nice. Oh, yeah. I love her.
That's Bobcat. I remember Bobcat was at the Parlor, and there was a guy that was featuring that he just had a fucking hard on for Bobcat. So it was that oh my God, and so he was bugging him. He was like asking him questions, and he was like wanted to do his impression of Bobcat to Bobcat. So the manager comes up and he's like, hey guys, Bobcat wants the green room to himself, so can you guys stay in the pool room, So we were like, sure. I had to go in the green room to get a water, so I just knock on the door. Bobcat's like, come in. And I just go, hey, sorry, Bobcat, I'm just getting a water. And he said straight up, he goes, Jay, it's not you, dude. He goes, this other guy is fucking driving me nuts. He's like, I just can't handle it. He's like, I get it. All right.
Green room etiquette is not something they teach. You learn that.
Right.
You don't know. I always knew, don't bother the headliner.
Yeah.
Because the owner would always say, don't bother the headliner. Don't bother the headliner.
Dude, I kind of did. You know what I did is I kind of did how I would when I would go to a new school or I was around people I didn't know, is kind of speak when spoken to, and pick your shots. You know, don't
ask for shit. Don't need.
Absolutely.
Don't, because like to me, the best compliment is when they would give me a compliment without me even looking at them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I got that. But I met some amazing people. I met Lori Kilmartin.
Awesome.
My job was to, because I also did, what do you need me to do? I'll do whatever you need, because I thought that was show business.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need someone to go to the airport and pick up the comic and take him to the airport. I'm like, I'll do it. And I was poor, and my car brakes were bad. And I remember every time I put on my brakes, I would turn up the radio. and Lori Kilmartin is like, you know I feel that, right?
That's
you know
hilarious.
My pussy feels real good when you brake. You know that, right? And I'm like, but I learned a lot from them. Like, I learned, like, the club owner was going to pay me one time, and I'm like, no, I don't need that money. I have a job. And she's like, you go back there and you get that money.
Who told you that?
Lori Kilmartin.
Good, yeah.
She said, anytime a club owner gives you money, you take it.
Yeah.
Them sons of bitches take advantage. You take everything.
And also you don't want to set a precedent.
Right.
Yeah.
And I learned.
Yeah.
And I learned, like, from that. I learned from, like, Joey Coco Diaz.
Oh yeah.
He used to come. We used to beg for him to come. My first standing ovation I ever got was from Brad Williams.
Oh.
It was nothing I did. It was just those people were just ready to party. You know what I mean? It was like such a fun time.
When you, I remember my first standing ovation. Did you know how to, like? Did you know how to react to it? I didn't know how to react to it.
No, I was embarrassed. I didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was weird.
I thought it was a punk. And I didn't, and I just was like staring like this, and I was like, "Thank you," and I didn't handle it well at all.
Dude, I feel like how I reacted was so like goofy or corny. Like I was doing a convention of NBA and college referees. Literally, the whole room is all guys except for I think like 5 female officials, and I blah blah blah, good night, and then all of a sudden this table stands up, then this one, then and I literally went, oh, thank you. And I didn't know what to do. It's so weird. Like, oh man.
But it was the energy that I carry with me. Like when he came in there, it was party time, and like
Brad?
yeah, he's totally relaxed. You know, like nothing was bad. Everything was good, and he was just like, we're just here to have fun.
Yeah,
just have fun. And I'm like, I can have fun in comedy? He's like, you can just have fun. And I'm like, what? And I just was like having fun, and it just worked, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then, you feel like I'm done. I can move to LA. I can move to LA now. I'm going to go. And
you're like, this is the level I'm at now.
Yeah. And then I did another show, and then thank God it was bad.
I was going to say the next show, you're like, you guys know I usually get standing ovations
was like
now.
6 people. And then there was like,
of course.
Yeah. And it was like, but you're thankful for that. 'Cause some people, they keep passing through and they get lucky, and then they don't know that they're not good.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
like
absolutely.
That's my goal. Is like I just want to be good.
Yeah.
And it just takes so long. You know what I mean? Just to be funny.
I'll announce it. I've been kind of mentioning it, but I'll announce it here with you. So that one of the things I'm doing. Excuse me. Starting January 1st, I did this in 2013. I recorded an album in 2013, and I own the domain jokeaweek.com, and I own ajokeaweek.com. And so in 2013, recorded an album, and then I started that April every week posting me working out a new bit.
Okay.
And then
that's a great idea.
The tagline was building a new hour 1 week at a time. And so starting January 1st, I'm starting it again. I'm going to do it again. And it's
exposed. Everybody sees it.
And I do like a self-interview ahead of time. Like the joke I'm working on this week would, like tonight, sex tape. Yeah. And then I'll show like me doing it at some open mics, maybe at an actual show on the weekend. And then I close it out with like, this is what I liked about it. This is where I need improvement. See you next week. Are
you doing open mics? Have you looked at any of?
Dude, I go to open mics all the time. I just was at the one at CB Live last night, and. They always we have like a club now. I tell comics too. The hang afterwards is so important. Yeah. We got done. We usually get done 9:30. Last night, this is not exaggeration. So the mic got done at 9:30. We left there at 3 a.m.
Wow.
And it's just Casey the booker is there, and
I always feel bad because he always asks me to do. I'm very lucky because I always book out like a few months out, and he's like, "Are you ready? Can you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I feel bad." Yeah. I always tell him no, and he's gonna stop asking. So you know what I mean? But I just can't cancel the show.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, you can't. Yeah, can't turn down money. Now, with being 9 years you've been
9 years.
Now, what's your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, that's funny. Just to be funny. No, no. You know what I want to do? I just want to be. Whenever I go in and I'm getting ready to do a show, I get myself worked up, and I just need to. I want to get to that point where I'm not so tense. It's not nervousness. It's like
anxious.
No, it's like when I go into a room. The worst thing I can do is stare at people as they're coming into the room. Just set me in the back, and I don't want to look at anybody. Because when I see them, I see hardworking people that paid a babysitter, and they're spending money, and I'm like, I got to give them a good show. What am I going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I got it. I just feel responsible to give a really – and I know that sounds weird, but that's what I want. And it tears me up because I can't relax. So I just want to get to that point where I'm like just – like people just show up and go do shows, and I'm like, "How the fuck are you doing that?" Like, I like stay up at night and I write everything down, and then I move it around, and I'm like, "Did that work?" Because some people are naturally funny, and then some people have to work at it. And I'm a work at it kind of guy. I'm not mad about it, but I'm like, "This is what I gotta do," you know?
Oh yeah. And so, what would you do? You have any aspirations to move to LA or New York?
So I don't know. So, you know, I don't know. Like. I know I have to move somewhere, and I need to go and do that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's interesting what you said that Joan Rivers said to you is really kind of sticking in my head because
all roads lead to LA.
Yeah, because for the longest I've been saying I got 3 places I'm going to decide by March where I'm going to officially move to. Okay. Back to LA officially, Vegas, or Boston. Yeah, and I keep asking people their input, and you'll appreciate this. One of my buddies, I asked him, and he was like, "I think you should go back to Boston." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, 1,000%." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, I've always thought of you as like an East Coast comic anyways. You're close to New York." But here's the thing that he said, that it doesn't even necessarily apply to Boston, but just, he said, but he knows I love Boston. But he goes, in comedy, we all know comedy is not always good, right? Yeah. So he said, why not make everything outside of comedy good? And I was like, you can do that? Like we were talking and so he knows I love Boston, and I love the people, I love the city, I love the energy of it, and so that I was just like, oh, that really hit me. But
it's a weird thing because I don't feel like you should go until you're ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you should, and what does that mean? That means like I'm lucky in Arizona. I get so much stage time, and I don't get these 3-minute things that you do in LA. I've gone to open mics in LA. That's frustrating,
dude. The scene here, I've told so many people, the scene here is amazing. Well, not just the stage time, but the comics. Comics here are, you have young comics that are good. Yeah. And they're hungry, which then makes me hungry. Yeah, you know, really it's the man sharpens man. Like she,
I agree.
I was talking. We were talking about it last night, and I think Phoenix has. I would put Phoenix's scene up against. I mean, for the amount of stage time you have, the amount of comics you have that are good. I would put the scene up against anybody.
I mean, it's good. It's strong here. And from this city, I have a 1-hour corporate act, super clean. I have a booker. He books me, and he's like, no gay, no swearing. And they're comfortable to talk that way. You know.
They say that to me, too.
Yeah, the no gay. Yeah. I love sucking dicks. But they're like, no
get
gay,
rid of all that.
No politics. You know, and I do these like little small towns. It's like 200 or 300 people. It's a proper crowd. Yeah. But I do these small towns. I do that. I have that 1 hour. And then I have like a clean act. I even have an act for 15 minutes. I'm working on it where I could do in a church.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's a church, right? I love that. And then I have a club act. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I have a blue act.
Yeah, yeah.
So in Phoenix, I have all these different and every time I write a joke, I'm like, that goes here, that goes there.
That's great.
You know what I mean? And I got that from here.
Yeah.
Because we get so much stage time. Sometimes you'll see comics that will go up on stage, and it kills me because they're like, what should I talk about? And I'm like, fucking have it organized. Don't waste my time.
You had a whole week knowing you were going to do this.
Yeah.
You drove here. You had time beforehand. You didn't know what the fuck you were going to do.
You know what else kills me? When they take a drink on stage. What the fuck? You're a gladiator.
At an open mic, too?
Yeah, they'll do it. Even when they're opening 5 minutes, they need what the fuck do you need a drink for? Your job should be to make that person invisible and get booked. Yeah. Don't take a drink. Dude, you're fucking around. Fucking around. Put the drink there and put it here. Oh, it makes me
so what else is going on?
That makes me so mad. Or when they hug you on stage and they're like, what are we doing? Like that weird hug. I always tell them, like, I'll see them and I'll watch them, and if they're doing that weird hugging hand bullshit, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck? And I will tell them, when you announce my name, could you please just step back?
Get the fuck out of the way.
Just step back against the wall, because I need to connect with the people right away.
You're like, cool, be gone, peasant.
I'm not doing that. Like, it's weird. And
I'm going to hug you now every time.
Thank you.
Every time on stage, long
hugs.
Yeah, you're going to be like, okay, Jay. I'm like, no.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. Now, this will come out tomorrow. What's your social media stuff, and where can people see you?
So
do you have any gigs coming up? Right?
I have a website. It keeps getting hacked. I did a special, and it has a PayPal on there, and somebody keeps trying. So they're refixing it. It should be fixed, I think, in the next 2 weeks. It's so much money. On this. And then you can find me right now on Facebook.
You didn't say what your website is.
Oh, it's called Gene Moore Comedy.
Okay.
Gene Moore Comedy. Yeah. Gene Moore Comedy. And then I'm on Instagram as Gene Moore Comedy, and then
Gene,
and then Moore Moore on Facebook, and then Twitter. I don't know how to use. I use that for my political rantings where I don't hashtag anyone. I just, when I get an urge to say something politically that nobody cares about, I put it on Twitter, because nobody follows me on Twitter. And
I do that. Twitter is my number 3.
Is it? Yeah,
Instagram's my number 1. Facebook is 2, and Twitter's like 3.
And then I have a podcast coming out. It's called The Good Guy Revolution, and it's more designed for my clean comedy. You know what I mean? And so really, what I want to do is, every time I go out in the world, I just see everything's going so fast, everything's so negative, everyone's so angry, like they're on the verge, and I'm like, I get that anger, I know that anger, it's inside of me. And I thought, what if I had a podcast where I interview really sweet people that never get a voice, that never get a chance, and we could just hear the calmness. And I just want to do that, and I call it the Good Guy Revolution, and I just want to get people to do one kind thing a day. We can change the world. I feel I really do. And so I have that, and then here's what I'm adding to it, and I'm having a struggle, is it's so embarrassing. I messaged other Gene Moores. So I went on Facebook and I found all these Gene Moores.
All right.
So whenever I go to a town, I always have a hard time, because I don't have TV credits. Nobody knows me. I'll give a good show, but you have to be there to see it. Like, you're not going to know, oh, Gene Moore's coming to town. Right. So I thought, what if I made friends with Gene Moores in the town that I'm going to, call them up and interview them on my podcast?
Interesting.
And then they could bring their friends, and then we could have a relationship.
That's great.
And then my goal is, I want to do a proper DVD comedy special, but only have Gene Moores in the audience and call it the Gene Moore. Yeah. But it would be for Gene.
Or you could call it more Gene Moores.
You know what? I think the world needs more Gene Moores.
More Genes. Yeah. Oh, man.
Do you have hacky, though?
No.
It's at the Allwyn House here in Phoenix. Okay. And then
you're awful at your plugs, by the way.
I know.
You're like, I got this website. They hacked my PayPal. So, anyways, my Facebook, and you don't ever mention what the shit is.
I'm the worst. And
I have a gig, Christmas show. So, anyways,
I'm always so. There's a reason why I do that, but. And then at the end of the year, I'm very lucky to have a good friend in Tom Sims. He owns Crazy. He
Great club.
Watches out for me. He gets frustrated. He calls me all the time. You need to get out of town. Congratulations, you're the 7th grade king. Now get the fuck out of town. He's like, it's not gonna happen unless you get out of town. He's pushing me. And I love that.
When he says get out of town, does he mean move or get out on the road?
He's saying, let's just start with going to LA. I used to go once a month and do that, and LA has been very friendly to me. I met some amazing comics. Erin Foley, do you know her?
I do. ERIN. I do. I think I'm friends with her.
She had a show called Gays Are Us
at
the Hollywood Improv.
Yeah.
And 3 years in, she had me on that show, and I'm like, Aaron, I'm not ready. She's like, nobody's ready. Just fucking get here. Just fucking get here. You know what I mean? So it's been amazing. Like I get all the time, like Butch Bradley in Las Vegas. He's like, just call me and I'll get you on.
He's the best.
I know, but I don't know. By this time at the end of the year, I'm in a weird place because I've used up all my vacation time because I have a day job.
Oh, okay.
So I use up all my vacation time, and then I'm always in this weird funk because I'm like, I'm gonna go home this Christmas. Yeah. So that's where.
Yeah.
I need to get past that. Clearly,
I get it. I mean. No, I get it.
So my long-term plan is I do need to move. I do need to go somewhere, but I don't want to be hacky or anything, but I'm not organized. Like sometimes it really works, and I'm really in it with my comedy, and it works, and I can feel what I'm saying. Like I guess that's what they would call the voice. I don't know, but other times it's just as incoherent fragments that aren't pieced together yet. I'm getting there, but I just don't feel like I need to go anywhere until I get that.
The incoherent fragments that you say, is that with new bits?
Not only new bits, but like in the bits that I talk about.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like I don't feel they're connected. Like there's a theme. It's just it's like this, and that. In my mind, it's like I always, I do it in threes, talk about being Mexican, Catholic, and gay. You know what I mean? I don't spend too much time on it because you can feel people getting tired of it. But I feel like once I master that, then I can explore. I'm still working, you know what I mean? But I work under the radar. I don't do anything above the radar because you get attacked, and other comics will really give you hell for that. Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, you don't have to say names or anything like that, but when you, I guess, give me an example. Like, so when you're saying work above the radar, what do you mean?
So
promoting your shows and shit?
So this is what I do.
Okay.
Because I probably work like 5 or 6 shows a week. Like I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky. Just different. If I don't need to promote the show, like it's a corporate show or whatever, I don't even put it on there. But when you put a lot on Facebook, there are people here that don't want the best for you, and then they talk shit about you. And I know you say rise above that, don't care about it.
No, I wouldn't say rise above. I would just like fuck them. That's
what
I would say.
It is fuck them, but
because you're not performing for them.
I know that,
and
I know that. And I need to let my best friend Christopher Royer tells me all the time, fuck them. But I'm like,
fuck them. You're not performing for them. Also, you're not posting your gigs for them.
No,
it's for your fans.
Yeah.
My do you know who Kev on Stage is?
Who?
Kev on Stage.
No.
My buddy Kevin Fredericks. He's tons of social media.
Is he cute?
Yeah, he's married, 2 kids.
Is he cute?
I guess it would be weird if I say he's cute. I guess make our podcast different now.
He sounds cute.
No, he is. He's just he's the greatest dude, right? And he has a dope thing he calls the 95. So he calls his fans the 95. And he sold sweatshirts that had Roman numeral number 95 on it. And what that came from, I hope I'm saying it correctly, but he'll do periscopes and he'll talk to his fans and stuff like that. Every once in a while, somebody will be nasty, and he's like, I have no problem blocking people, Yeah. And his wife told him one time, she said, she's like, 5% of the people aren't going to like you, but 95 are. And that's what you need to focus on is your 95.
That's powerful. That's really. But for me, I'm doing a different thing. Like, I'm not trying to be like. I'm just trying to go back home and be accepted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm talking about I know where you're taking it, but I'm talking about like when you're posting your things.
Yeah, I do.
And these comics are sitting on. Good, fucking thin the herd of these people that aren't in your corner. That I mean.
Here's what I did for 2020. I have a guy that is actually going to run my social media.
Oh.
And he's like, this is nonsense. I'm just going to help you, and you know what I mean? Because you need help promoting. Like, quit being so fucking humble. You know what I mean? Like, do it. And I'm like, I get it, but I'm not comfortable. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I'm not comfortable after a show and you going and getting the money. I'll do it. You know what I mean? But I feel like such a whore. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh.
No, dude, you have a good product you're putting out there. You should be paid for it.
It's just a weird
thing. I got
thing.
you. I got you, yeah. Well, really quick, I'll just, I'm at Big Irish J on everything, bigirishj.com. I will be at the Miami Improv this Thursday, tomorrow if you're listening to this on Wednesday, and I'll be at the Irish Club doing a toy drive in Vero Beach Friday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's where I'll be at. And I want to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. This is awesome.
We cried a little bit.
Dude, this is great.
I know, thank you.
Do you feel good?
I do feel good. Haley, do you know Haley Boyle?
Yeah.
She always tells me, you need to talk about this on stage, but I haven't transcended.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just cry.
No,
But I feel good talking with you. I felt like, I'm embarrassed by it, but I didn't feel embarrassed. You made me feel like...
Dude, I'm telling you.
And as the words come out and I hear them, me saying that, and I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't be embarrassed, but,
Well, you did nothing wrong, and like I said, all I keep hearing, as you keep telling me these things you're overcoming, I hear a guy that's a fighter. I used to fight. I used to teach martial arts, and I'm telling you, I see you as a fighter.
God bless you.
Yeah, and just kind of related to that, do you know who Wendy Starling is?
No.
So she used to be in L.A. She moved to New York, and I remember we were outside of Flappers one night. We were about to do a show in the Yoo-Hoo room, and she was like, she goes, and Wendy's like great comic, and she has no fear of talking about whatever, right? And she's like, I want to talk about, she was gang raped.
Oh, my God.
And she was like, I kind of want to talk about this, but I don't know. And then I'm like, so tell me about it. And she's telling me about it. And she's at a place where she's not, getting teared up about it or whatever. But she's like, and then I was like, that's hilarious, Wendy. And I was like, here's a tag. And I was like, please do. And so I think that was the first night she talked about it on stage. And then since then, she's been talking about it. And this is 5 years ago. She moved to New York. I think she has like a full worked out bit about it. But she had told me, and this is for you to take this and think about this. People emailed her about people that had been raped, that themselves had been sexually abused and stuff, and thanking her.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's power in talking about it.
Wow. I didn't even think about that.
We'll end on that note. Thank you for doing this, Gene. I love you, brother.
Thank you. I love you back. Thank you.